You have your center front here, and then we have our 1-inch seam allowance here. But we're going to put in a 5/8 of an inch button, okay? So a 5/8 of an inch button means you need an extension for 5/8, and then you also need the facing that goes behind the extension, and then you need your 1 inch. All right, so I've gone ahead and put in the 1 inch, so I'm going to go ahead and add these other 2 lines on the one I'm doing. All right, so when you're designing, do a little picture, just something like this on your score sheet, and draw in what you want to do. So we're not going to do gathers and yokes and things like that, although you probably could. What we're going to just focus on is darts, all right? And then just how to do your armhole. So when you're doing your darts, what you guys have done so far, this is a terrible drawing. Whoa, look at that long neck. Wow, okay, just ignore the dimensions here. Okay, what you guys have done is a shoulder dart and a waist dart, okay? And so what that means is that because you have 1 dart above the bust and 1 dart below, we've been able to balance this by using the bust line, okay? The line that goes across the bust point. So as soon as we change that, let's say you want to combine this and have 1 big dart here. Let's say you want to do away with this and you want to have a couple of darts in the neck. Okay, and so this one would do most of the fitting. If this one doesn't go into the bust circle, it would be this one. Let's say you want to do darts in the center front. I'll show you how to do that. What if you want to do a French dart? Like that. We can talk about that. I mean, think of all the darts that we have talked about that you've done with your flat pattern. Darts anywhere, you do them. So I'm just gonna leave this one here because that looks like I had to have a dart anyway. So let's talk about different ways to do that, okay? So the first thing I'm gonna do is I have my seam allowance, and let's say I do a 1/2 inch button. Then I'm gonna draw in the button facing, okay? Okay, and I have to do this because I can hold it better. So there's my fate. Now I'm gonna change my seam allowance because that will change. Okay, and then the next thing is I need another 1/2 inch for the extension, right? So let me put that in here. Okay, so this would be for a 1/2 inch button, all right? So now center front becomes here, okay? This becomes the fold line. So this is the extension. This is the facing for the extension, and you can see I haven't done a very good job of getting exactly the right. And then that's the seam allowance. So if that's the center front, I need to quickly redo the bust point, which is 3 7/8. Okay, and that's from center to bust point plus 1/8. So it's right here. Okay, so ignore that because I put in these other lines. Okay, so let's talk about now how to design this. Okay. Okay, so first of all, take your inch, your seam allowance, and let's fold that in, okay? Now, if I put that right here at the center, okay? And then I bring that up, straight up here to the neck. And then I bring this straight down. That's what we did before, right? And that worked. Then we put in another guideline here to help guide this, and that meant we put 1/2 up here and 1/2 down here. Okay, now look what happens. what if I decide to have this be smooth, no darts here, and I want to bring it all down here, okay? Let's say I want to combine them and do one big dart here. What happens to this bust point line? Before it was up here, and now if I bring all of this, bring it all down, what happens to that? It goes down, right? So if I put all of my darts here, then it's going to cause this to come down. Now, what if I decide that I want to have a couple shoulder darts or one big shoulder dart? So then, of course, you want to do some slashes. Then I would bring this tight here, bring it up, and I would have one dart or two darts. I could do two darts here. Okay, so then as you can see what happens here, then this is raised. This goes up higher. So we're no longer balanced. Okay, so that means we're no longer balanced is to keep this in the middle where I have the darts here and here, equal amount. Okay, so that you're just gonna bring this down, bring this up, and at that point, so we don't do a guideline here, it's not gonna help us, right? So I'll just do some slashes. Okay, now, okay, so that works. It works to put this, and see, here's my, oh, you know what I did wrong? I put this on, I'm so used to putting it on that 1 inch mark that didn't work. I was saying, why isn't the bust point working? But see, this would go here and here.
So you put center front.
Yeah, so you gotta put your center front on center front. Okay, so if I do that right here, okay, then obviously, oh, I can't get that pinned on. Okay, all right, so then this line meets here and it meets here. And then my bust point is here, so I kind of scoot that in a little bit to give it just a little bit of ease. Okay, so so I've got it anchored here, right here, and here, because that would take it up. I could go up or down. Okay, now what if I want to put a dart on center front? Okay, if I want to do that, then I've got to move this. So then at that point, instead of anchoring it like here and here, I'm gonna now anchor it here. I'm gonna put my bust point where it goes, and I'm going to anchor the side seam. Okay, so I'm gonna put that where it goes, and then I'm going to take this off, and then that's where I can bring it around and put darts here. So maybe I still keep this here, or maybe what if I want to, well, if this is going to be on center front, I've got to keep that, but I could bring this around and put it here. Okay, and if I didn't have this marked, then then you just swivel it. But in order to keep this on center front, you pretty much have to do it like this. But you can bring all of this over to here. You can bring this over to here. I could bring this up. I could, what would happen is this part might stay on center front, and then this part wouldn't. Okay, so wherever I put my darts. Okay, so you just kind of anchor it where it's gonna stay, and then move it around to where you want to get your darts. Okay, is that making sense? All right. Okay, let's see. What else do I need to do? Oh, okay, let's talk about, so remember your dart rules, okay? So if I've got one, like if I want to do what if I decide to do a French dart? You know, then this would stay, I would just keep this flat. This would drop down, so I would obviously take that out. And then this would come down, and then I would line this up and bring this here. Okay, and remember your rules with darts. If I have one dart that does all the fitting, remember it's gonna go really close to the bust point or barely away. When we did our darts on each side, it just went into the bust circle. Now, what if I want to do 2 darts? Let's say I want to do 2 darts here, and I want them to be parallel. Okay? Do you remember? How do I make 2 darts parallel? What do I have to do?
Don't the inner legs have to be?
The inner dart leg needs, yes, the inner dart legs must be parallel. So the same rules apply here. Okay? So there's that. Okay, now let's talk about buttons and buttonholes. Okay, do you remember going through the button and buttonholes rules? Okay, so let's say I've got this done, and now I want to mark where my buttons and buttonholes go. Okay, so what would I start with? What's one of the rules? Okay, you want one to be at the bust point. So I might put a button here. Now, if it's 5/8, where would I start my buttonhole?
The very first one is 5/8 down.
Right, so well, first of all, yeah, so let's put one here. So the button, I like to start with the button. So the button goes right on center front. Okay, so if the button is on center front, then where does the buttonhole go? It either goes 1/8 of an inch up and then down, and you usually do the diameter plus the thickness. So if it's 5/8, we could assume it's 1/8 thickness if we just have a basic button. So that means my buttonhole would start here and go down, and I could leave it open-ended, meaning I don't know the exact one, or I could just add 1/8 and put it there. Or where else would it go? And actually, let me do one more thing. And I'm so used to doing this. I turned it back on the 1 inch, but really it gets turned back here, doesn't it? Because see, here's the center front, here's the extension, here's the facing of the extension, and then my 1 inch. So really, I should be folding it at the fold line. Okay, and I've written on the board where that fold line is. Okay, so you have an extension, the facing, and then you have the seam allowance. So it would go like this. Okay, and then this would be right here. Okay, that's what it would look like on the dress form. Okay, and then let's put another button. Well, how far from the neck should I go?
1/2 inch since your buttons are 1/2 inch.
Right, if my button's 1/2 inch, then I'm just going to turn this under where it goes. Then I should go 1/2 inch down from the neckline, right? So let's go down 1/2 inch. And here's a button. I don't have this trim slash, so it's kind of hard. Okay, so there's that one. So I've got this button, and then maybe I decided to measure this and do one in the middle, and then that same amount is what I would do. So from here, I would start the button if I went out that way. Okay, and usually if it's a facing, you're gonna do the horizontal buttons. If there's an actual band, then you usually do vertical. Okay, so I'm just gonna put one here and pretend I've measured it. And so that.
Repeat that again, facing is which one? Horizontal?
So because we have, if there's just a facing, we usually do horizontal. If there's a band, or if it's got top stitching to look like a band, then you usually do vertical in the middle of the band, which is where your center front is. Center front's in the middle. Okay, so that's buttons and buttonholes. So just remember your rules for buttons and buttonholes. Remember everything you've learned about darts and where they go. And then that's pretty much what you're going to do for this assignment. And remember, this will drop or it won't be balanced. So you'll either, like where I've got this, could I, see now I've kind of got it here and here. And so it would, but I could still do my center front up here or maybe here. And then I just wouldn't, the part of it wouldn't sit on center front, right? Okay. All right, so that's what I want you to do, is to practice doing darts And of course you'll do the armhole, and then I should say, and your buttons and buttonholes. Practice doing that.